Hi everyone and welcome back to another card making video. Today I'm playing with products from the latest release by Waffle Flower and I find their designs always so unique. So this is a release with no exception. You can see here a die set with those bears that they are hugging and I'm going to show you what a fun card this makes. So first of all, I'm going to cut out the two bears using white cardstock, but you can definitely use colored cardstock if you want your bears to be brown or cream. Instead for today, I'm going to use some ink blending to add a little bit of color on my bears. And now I'm going to cut out a panel that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so the standard card size. On both bears there are tabs which I'm going to fold. I'm reinforcing the scoring line that is there from die cutting and I'm just using my bone folder for that. These flaps are going to allow you to stick those bears on top of your card base. So the panel that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 is actually my card base and these flaps on the top are working as a gatefold card where you see they are hugging. This is absolutely adorable. So now let's bring those bears into life. I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending. For that I'm using my cream dye ink from my collection with Stamperia. I'm not going to cover up completely all the bears. I want to still have a little bit of white. So this bear is going to read as white. However, I will have some dimension on one side, bringing her more to life. I'm going to repeat the same process for the other bear. Make sure to add this ink blending on where those bears are going to meet, so this shading is going to help one bear to pop against each other when they are hugging. Now I'm going to use this small blending brush by Waffle Flower and I'm going to add a little bit of pink on their cheeks, and again I'm using my pink dye ink from Stamperia. Now depending on how much you load your brush, you can make sure that you don't end up with a blotch. Also make sure that you dab a little bit the brush on a scrap piece of paper for a very soft pink color on the cheeks. And then on the die set there are dies that will give you little bits and pieces to dress up your bear a little bit more. So you will find the tip of the nose as well as some little shapes that fit inside the ears. When you die cut the bear, you will find that it actually embosses some indentations and you know exactly where you're supposed to stick the nose and the ears. For sticking everything down, I'm using my matte glue, which is going to dry completely clear and disappears. And even if I make a mess, it's not going to show any shine. And also I find this little tool very handy to pick up tiny little pieces. Now I'm adding some double-sided tape on the flaps and I'm going to peel it off and stick them on top of my card base. Now you can stick that either way, on top of the card or at the back, as I'm going to do it today, since I don't want to see the flaps here. But it really depends on how you want to do it. The best way I find is if you hold them vertically towards your table so you can align them perfectly at the bottom. And then I'm going to repeat the same process for the little bear. And I think this would make a great Mother's Day card, definitely. Again, I'm aligning it at my table. And look how adorable this is and how they are hugging. I'm absolutely in love with this card. So anyway, in the die set, you will find even more little dies to dress up your card, like hearts. You will find tiny butterflies, even a big stem with a flower. So I'm going to use lots of them. You will also find a little bow so you can make your bears look even cuter than they already are. Now I'm going to put together the flower and I did cut out the stem twice. You can even go ahead and stick 3 of those layers to make it even sturdier. Now this piece, I'm just going to stick it on the bear's arm, which means that it's going to be very flimsy. That's why you need to make it as sturdy as you can. The more layers, the better. So now I did have 2 layers for the stems, and then for the flowers, I'm going to sandwich the stem in between them. So you see I'm sticking one at the front, one at the back, and you can stick them on an angle if you don't want to align them perfectly to make your flower look fluffier. I'm going to stick the yellow part at the center And again, there is indentation when you die cut the flower, so you know exactly where you're supposed to stick this. And of course, either bear can hold the flower. I'm going for the little guy here, so just add a blob of glue and stick it at the back of his hand as if he is holding it. And this is why you need to add many layers for the flower to make it sturdy so that it doesn't move around or tear easily. Now I'm going to add a little bit of inking at the top of my card base. I'm using Cerulean Blue again from my dye ink collection with Stamperia. I'm going for an ombre look where I will add just a little bit of blue at the top, and I'm going to make it ombre from blue to white, very lightly as you can see, so it adds a little bit of contrast behind the bears and helps them pop a little bit more. Now I did also use the 3 heart dies from the set, and I cut out 3 hearts from red cardstock, and I'm going to stick them down. 2 of them are showing, 1 of them is revealed when you open the flaps. Now let's add a sentiment. For that I'm using one of the new sentiment stamp sets from Waffle Flower from this release. Of course I went with sending hugs, which I'm going to stamp inside my card, but just behind the bears, so when you close the flaps, you won't be able to read the message. Of course, I did stamp it quite far up so that you end up with enough space to write your personal message at the bottom. Here are some close-up photos on the first card that I'm sharing today using the new Waffle Flower release, and I find this set is so unique and absolutely adorable. So let's make a second card using another die set from this release, which gives you those 2 connected hearts as well as those 2 hands. And there is another small sentiment set that gives you many different sentiments to play with that fit inside those hearts. So let's put together a fun card now, which is going to be super easy to recreate, but at the same time I find it is adorable. I used red cardstock to cut out the hearts, and you can see you can fold them and stamp inside any of the sentiments. So I have already gone ahead and cut out a panel. I did use one of my stitched panels from a set by Waffle Flower to cut it out. And by the way, just like always, you will find the full list of all the supplies that I'm using down below in the description. Now I'm going to decide where I want the heart to go, and then I'm going to use the 2 hands and just place them on top, audition them, and once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to secure them down with some low-tack tape. Secure with the low-tack tape the hands on the white panel, and then just remove the heart and run it through your die cutting machine. You will get this result, which I find is super adorable, and you can fit the little note with the heart inside. So this is going to be my card front. Now let's make a card. For that I'm using one of those pattern papers by Waffle Flower. This is the booklet with the rainbow colors, and I'm going to use one of them. All you have to do is to just score it at half, and you will end up with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card. The paper is quite thick. It's great for card bases. Plus on the inside there are white, and they have many different versions of these pads, so you end up with pattern paper that can be turned into a card. Anyway, I am going to add some foam tape at the back of my panel and stick it on top. And you can stick it on an angle or just try to align it perfectly. Now I'm going to take out the heart, and I will choose one of those sentiments that will stamp inside. You can go ahead and white emboss the sentiment inside your heart, or like I'm going to do now, you can stamp on a piece of white cardstock and just stick it inside as a label. Of course, you are not going to stick the heart on your card base. You want this to be removable for the recipient to play with. So it's a fun interactive card with a little secret message inside the heart. You can of course go ahead and use some gems or pearls or sequins, whatever you have, to embellish the card a little bit more. And here are some close-up photos on the last card for today. So thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Links to everything I used can be found down below. Don't forget to like the video as well as leave me a comment, and I'll see you all next time.